Evening, everybody. Welcome. I know a few people will hear about in a moment, but enough to make an interesting meeting.
Oh, right.
So, firstly, public question time. They are ridiculous by their absence. We're not expecting anyone.
We're not expecting anyone apart from Susan Greenwood for the later item.
Yeah. So that's for the Please Youth Alliance item coming later. Recording. This meeting is being recorded. Does anybody else wish to make their own recording of this meeting? Apologies and reasons for absence.
These have been emailed out with reasons from Councillor Colin, Bransby and Stewart. So you just need to consider the apologies and reasons altogether as a motion.
Okay, is that accepted? Yeah. Everyone should have seen those. Thank you. No request for a dispensation. Updated disposable personal and pecuniary interests. None to report. So anyone want to declare any interest in any items on tonight's agenda?
I'm trustee for Honor Youth, which are working closely with Kirklees Youth Alliance. I don't think there's anything we're particularly voting on today, but I just want to make it clear that Kirklees Youth Alliance are doing some work with us. We're paying them for extra youth work on that, over and above what Home Val pays for.
Okay. Thank you. Any items on the agenda to be discussed in private session? Jane, have you got anything?
So,
Anything to do with toilets? No.
No, I mean, I think if it becomes evident that things need to go into private session,
Yeah.
but there's nothing, there are no confidential reports or anything like that that have been distributed beforehand.
Thank you. Minutes of the meeting held on the 8th of July, for this committee meeting. You've all had an opportunity to see those minutes. I've looked through them, it seems to me to be okay. Anyone want to either query anything or raise any points from those minutes that's not otherwise covered on the agenda? Okay, do you want to talk about matters arising?
Yes, please. And first of all, can I apologise for the amount of time it took for the minutes to come out? It's just been tremendously busy, but thank you for bearing with me over that. Maintenance contracts, the two maintenance contracts that have been in discussion at this committee in the past, they're not appearing as an agenda item tonight, but it is for me to arrange that first meeting of the working group. And I'm very conscious that that needs to take place in the next month or so.
Is there anything? I think there were a couple of items that were kind of held over from before. The sharps things one that always comes to my mind.
Yes, there were a number of things which I still haven't managed to deal with, and yes, they will get dealt with eventually. I'm just apologising for that. But if anything else really comes up in the body of the agenda.
Thank you. Any questions, Tom?
No, that's all I propose that we approve the minutes.
Thank you. Seconded. Rita? Thank you. So we move on to budgetary matters. Rich, do you want to start taking us through this?
Yeah,
Well, can I just say what we did think is, Jen and I have just spoken, there may be some items that come up for discussion in the rest of the agenda that then influence our thinking about the next year's budget and beyond. So we'll talk a bit about this that might then hold over some decisions.
You could move it all down, I mean, move the item down.
I mean, everyone's seen the paper, so they're aware of what the current status is. So when it comes to items that are taking up some of the budget, you know, you know what the position is, so
So just
just
move
move
it
it
all down.
down.
Is that all right with you, Richard? Thank you. Right, so we'll move that on to a bit later in the meeting. Item 242557 is grant applications for the Christmas provision. The committees, so there's a few things to look at under this. The committee's already approved payments of 2 grants totaling 2,250 and noted expenditure of £1,425.60 for an installed lit Christmas tree from Kirklees to the centre of Home Firth, leaving £2,324.40 in the budget. Jen, very appreciate the work that Jen's put into preparing a bespoke grant application form for, this is under the new scheme whereby local communities apply for grants, and this is for anyone to have applied. It says here 7 applications have been received. I think there may be 8 now.
There's 8 I emailed out with the apologies and reasons, and 8 one received. To be fair, I mean, it was received on the 30th, but I think there has been a little bit of miscommunication between different members of Home Village Residents Association, and it had gone to someone's junk mail and they hadn't realised, so it was a couple of days late coming in, but it's been emailed out to you, and it's up to you to decide whether you are prepared to consider it along with the others.
Can I propose that we do consider it? Okay. Don't be too punitive here. Get a reputation.
Christmas.
So there are, I mean, I'm not sure, you know, I'll run through each. Firstly, is everyone happy with the funding that we are making towards the main points, you know, on the etc. Looking at the individual grant applications, we have one from Scholes Methodist Church, who, if I remember rightly, they've certainly had trees in the past. Last year, I think they declined because I think they made their own arrangements, but they put in for a grant under this new scheme. One from the Rocky at Brockholes, and again, if I remember rightly, what's actually happened in the past is that they have had a tree which they themselves have been providing, but there was also a Kirklees tree just a bit further up the road there that we were providing. So that would be just one tree in Brockholes this time instead of 2. St David's Church at Homebridge, who have had a tree in the past. Honley Business Association, and you can see what it says there. So this is towards the provision of 2 Christmas trees, and they meet the extra costs and so on involved with that. Hayedge Residents Association, which has not had a tree from the Parish Council in the past. Hepworth Community Association, who again, I think, and Tom might correct me, I think last year they have had in the past, but not at all.
No, the Butcher's Arms pub used to always provide the one outside the pub there, but I think this time, yeah, we decided to get the grant instead.
Yeah, okay, so we're supporting, and I think the tree goes outside the Butcher's Arms.
Yep.
So it's very visible there, isn't it, from the rest of the village. Netherthon Community Partnership, who have had a tree in the past, and as Jen has just said, Home Village, who've also had a tree in the past. Art, anything else you want to say on
Yeah,
this?
just to say that I've seen, or we've received copies of public liability insurance for the Honley Business Association ones, the Hayedge Residents, Hepworth Community Association, Netherthon Community Partnership. The other applicants are all aware that we need to see that. And what I would suggest is when you consider each of these grant applications, you know, where we've not yet seen insurance, I'll put in a clause saying subject to having seen proof of insurance. if that makes sense.
Can I ask how much do they have to pay in insurance? I have no idea.
I have no idea.
So, like I said, I
No,
think,
no, just curious really.
I think that in most cases, such as the, I think, say, like with the Netherlands Community Association, Honley and so on, it's rolled up in the rest of the insurance cover, isn't it?
Yeah, for all the business association, they will have liability cover for any level of cover.
Right.
Unless you do something unusually different, it's all rolled up into everything else they do as well.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, just curious. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a fair question, you know, in as much as presumably you're thinking, well, you know, just, is it worth the...
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. And
It would be relevant, wouldn't it, if there were a new constituted group to get a Christmas tree, then we'd have to think about that, wouldn't we?
Yes, yeah. Tom?
There's anybody come forward from New Mill. That New Mill, we always used to get the big tree from Kirklees at the junction. Obviously that's not going to happen this year. So, just wondering if anyone from the club or any of the other groups in New Mill come forward.
Not as yet, but I haven't yet contacted the club like you suggested.
Yeah.
And I know the church, their minister is just left or is in the process of
Yeah,
leaving. So, but I will make further attempts to contact them.
Yeah. Well, I'll speak with the Graham and Stuart. So I'll be seeing. Actually, I won't be seeing him on Thursday. I'm not seeing him on Thursday.
Right.
Play Paul, the same Paul team. But I'm not playing this week, so I won't be seeing him. But if you correspond with Graham at the club, I can get his email address even, and copy me in on it and try and arrange something. It might be that we'll not have it in the centre of New Mill like we did previously, but it might be in front of the club, which will still be a good community space for us to have it.
Yeah.
I think in the gardens at the front, I think that would work. It's a good compromise.
Yeah.
I think it would be a lot easier in terms of if they have electricity
Yeah.
connection.
Exactly.
It could be quite tricky to try and put it where it was before and then negotiate with Kirklees about linking that into the...
So if it's on the club's grounds as well, it may fall within their insurance as well as other things. So yeah, feel free, if you want, I can get you Graham's email address and I can message him as well about it and try and put something together this week.
Thank you. And also, just to let you know, I have had communication with Baldale Community Centre, and they were certainly thinking early last week, end of the week before, of putting in an application. And I'm quite happy to chase them up. I know one of the later motions is whether you want to delegate to the chair and the vice chair approval of further expenditure from the budget line should there be any late applications. So we may well have one from Waldale. Upperthorn, I've been trying to get in contact with the Royal Oak, but neither of their phone numbers works and they haven't got an email, so I might have to drop by there.
I have approved budget for this, I have to say.
Because that's the only way I'll be. I know they do have a tree. I know they do have a tree, but and Hinchliffe Mill, I have been in touch. Well, I left a message on the phone for the landlady at Stumble Inn, but they've not got back to me. And certainly last year they didn't want a tree. So
They got one, but they wanted it.
yeah.
Can I just, before I come, Donald, do you know anything more in terms of thinking about New Mill? Do you have any other thoughts as to any groups in New Mill that might want to take us up on this scheme?
Well, there's about a couple of groups I can have a word with, if you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Tom is going to sort of pass on a possible link at New Mill Club.
Yeah.
But if there's any...
Well, that's where I would go anyway.
Right, okay.
Yeah. It's the only place we can socialise nowadays with no pubs, you know.
Yeah.
Not like the Go Banks, you know, Perth, you know, just got nothing.
Yeah.
So yes, I will by all means, yeah.
But if there's any other associations or groups, you know, that you think of, and I'm also conscious that New Mill, of course, includes into parts of Kirkroyd as well, doesn't
Oh
it?
yeah, it's all part and parcel.
Yeah.
Well, up to the river anyway, other
Yeah.
side of that's Waldale, but doesn't matter, we just take it all as one.
Yeah. Okay. Tom.
I was just thinking aloud, how much budget is there remaining for this? And which wards have not had a Christmas tree allocated to them? So I'd like to propose that if there is any there is any like wards which don't have a tree, like Upper Farm, New Mill, there's Wardale there. So Wardale can only have a tree in the red across from the pub there, and another Dusty was involved with it, but like there's a community group involved with that which used to do one. I think the tree might still be there. I think there is a tree there, which you just decorate the far side near one of the benches.
I know what you mean. There's a power supply there as well.
Yeah, there is one at the far side, so they might just decorate that instead. I think it's still there. But like I said, I like to, if there is remaining budget, how much is still left? Do you know, Jen?
There'll be something going for 400 because
400.
yeah, well, a little bit more than that because you've got this 8. That's if you approve all 8 applications. You know, so there will still be some budget.
So potentially enough money left for 2 more trees in 2 different wards. I suppose it depends if Jen does her further inquiries, whoever comes forward first gets them, and when once the money's spent, it's spent, isn't it really? And I think we've done quite a lot there, haven't we?
Sure.
Yeah.
There's a lovely opportunity.
Yeah, it's been well advertised. Like I posted on the New York community page about what's on there, which is why I'm a bit miffed that no one's come forward. But you can only, I haven't made a huge amount of effort to get people to do it, but you don't want to go doing a huge amount of effort. You want people to come up and forward themselves sometimes, don't you?
Yeah, you can just see the comments already though that then come when there isn't.
Yeah, exactly. And you just know it, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, this is a new scheme. We knew there'd be, you know, some teething problems and so on, and so far, so good.
I think it's really good.
Yeah.
I think it's good.
So we're looking for anything else you want to say in conversations with me?
Are we going to discuss all the individual trees then?
Would you like to?
Well, I'm just wondering what the process is going to be. But I've got a general point to make about all of them.
Okay.
If I allowed.
You could decide to consider all 8 applications together.
Yeah. Okay. Did you want to make your point before we do that?
I wanted to make a climate emergency.
No. Never saw that coming, Chris.
I was actually approached by Citizen Honley about this point, and it was trees being put on before December the 1st. And if we're going to consider climate emergency in terms of Christmas lighting, I think it'd be reasonable to ask that they're not done before 1st of December and that they come down on the 12th night, both in terms of climate emergency and light pollution, which I think are a biodiversity policy, so that would fit with that. So that would be my proposal.
I think you'll be.
I think this came up at the last meeting and it was discussed then. And one of the points made then was, you know, some Humley and Home Firm are certainly having lighting events. Well, Home Firm is. I think Humley's might actually be a bit later, mightn't it? In December. But Home Firm, for example, I think it's the 23rd of November.
Yeah, it is.
They're having their lighting event, so they will want. You know,
But
so
can we request that next year that they arrange a lighting event for 1st of December?
that's up to you.
Well, I'm asking us.
I'm just
Well,
giving you the
we are supposed
information.
to consider the climate emergency in all our policies, so I'm raising that issue for consideration.
Sorry, did you want to?
Yeah, I mean, just talk about Home First. There are quite a lot of businesses that are struggling at the moment because of the road scheme and possibly fewer people coming into Home First. And they want Christmas to be a big thing. So certainly with Home First.
So do I, but not in November.
No, but I'm just putting somebody else's case forward. That from their point of view, then they might go out of business, some of these people, and so that their priority is to do as well as possible. It's a business thing. I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but I'm just saying that that's what they will say. And they do that, every year they have a big sort of opening of Christmas, and what they want is loads of people to come in and spend lots of money because that's their livelihood. So I'm just putting their point of view.
Mary.
If Chris has made put forward a motion, then I would second it. I think this year will just happen as it is wanted, but I would think perhaps for next year when we are going through this process of allocating grants that we make a stipulation that there's no lighting at
Can I just say, just for information, before we move to a vote on that, and I'll pick on Tom's one as well. If you look at the application form, there was a very clear question, both a statement about our position, generally in terms of sort of biodiversity and concern about green issues and so on. And what that's led to, I think, is that as people have been submitting their application form, in some cases they've just given quite detailed, thought out, responses to that. In some cases they weren't sure what to answer to that, which has meant that there's been a response. No, but it's actually been a good thing, because there's been a response from Jen to say, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? And so on. So it's, in many ways, it's led to generating a bit of thinking and reflection and so on about those issues. Whether it's ended up at the point that everyone wanted, and it certainly wasn't a stipulation as you're proposing at the moment, that it raised the point.
No, yeah, I'd like to propose it and have a vote on it.
Okay.
I'd like to offer an amendment here. I agree with Chris, and I agree with Jane. So the compromise would be that Homley and Hanford lights Christmas trees are turned on early, whereas the rest of them are turned on the 1st of December. And I stipulate that I want them all down by the 6th of January, because I don't want any more. By the 6th of January, I'm fed up with Christmas, and it's all over the so they all should be down then anyway. So I think that's
Is it at the end of Christmas, so you're okay?
no, I've already been to a garden centre this weekend, and they were playing Cliff Richard and Nibble. That is way too early. That is insane. So so I think that's my amendment that I'm proposing. And I think we should maybe look at next year. Like, this is the first year we've tried to do something a bit different with this. So the next year we should maybe look at changing it. If it's been a success so far, so maybe look at changing it, making it more greener as well, like Chris has suggested. And maybe living trees and things like that, which other people say as well, they'd be taken away, put store them somewhere for the year, and then bring the same one back out again rather than to cut a new one down.
Okay.
I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I think we just need to be careful how we word it, because stating that you want the lights down as opposed to stating you don't want the lights turning on again is two different things. In Homeland, it takes us 2 weeks to take the lights down.
No.
So we can start turning them off, but even that's a logistical nightmare, because there must be 20 or 30 different PowerPoints we have to use to use them all. So trying to get up ladders and go all on isn't always that easy, but I think we will probably agree to try and meet it as much as we could, certainly.
Yeah, that's what I mean, turn them off by January. I'm not that much this
I guess
week.
you're only talking about the trees anyway, aren't you? Because you only have any jurisdiction with the trees. I guess it's sort of independent, it's all the lights that are put up that the communities put up themselves. I guess that's up to them. I mean, I guess we can encourage them, but can't say to them, you must turn on the lights.
So, how do you want to proceed? I mean, do you want to proceed with that amendment so that there would be a motion that the process next year will include a stipulation that the lights, except for Honley and Homeford centres, should not be turned on until the 1st of December, and that lights should not be on past the 6th of January. Are you happy to have that as the motion, including the amendment?
I feel we should vote on the amendment first.
No one seconded it, so if no one seconds it, then no one's not going to vote on it.
Would you want to accept the amendment?
I'm happy to accept the amendment as a fair compromise.
Okay, in which case we can move on that.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so do you want to take a vote on that, including the amendment then?
Is everyone clear what we're doing? All in favour of the motion, including the amendment? All against? Any against? I'll take it as I'm abstaining, and I take it as 3 abstentions. Is that okay? So that's carried.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What else would you like to?
Do you want a motion on all 8 applications then?
Or do you, if anyone wants to, Rich?
Well, I was just going to make a point. I've just noticed on the Scholes one that they seem to have gone slightly outside of the remit of the application by putting in 40 quid with the catering.
Yes.
whether that's, everybody else has just done decorations and trees, so I'm not saying you don't, it sounds a bit bar humbug-ish to knock them out, but it is slightly outside of the remit.
It was outside the remit, and I'm going to propose we don't accept that £40 extra. You know, reduce that amount.
I would just observe that one of the points of the trees is to provide a community focus, and I think schools are seeing this catering bit as being part of that community focus. So you might want to consider that, about how you make the tree a focus.
I think as well that application, the Scots one is still for less than the other ones. The other ones are over £250. So some of them can just prove one tree. Seasonal table in Humbridge. Decorations to the other, so I think it's okay. I know what you mean, Rich.
So they're not getting any more money than everybody else.
No, they're getting less than the others actually. They're getting less. It's the smallest application.
This might be a point as well to say that Haydesh, their application was actually for 276.52, but it was made very clear that it was a 250 unit.
Okay, so I think we're acknowledging the point about that schools have said that they'll use it for, a bit of the money for other purposes, but accepting it, not to the detriment of their application. Is everyone happy then if we take this as a whole and just vote on all of the applications? Yeah, at once.
What we're doing that day, that's fine. We'll just give
At
them
Hayden, it'll be the two, yes, maximum 250. Yeah. I know that they will still have the tree, they'll find the fund, the extra, the shortfall and so on.
Maybe they need to get higher to make sure they got the full 250.
Mm.
So we're doing some sort of, you know what I mean? Like people are doing grants for a bit more than
All in favour of approving these applications? Yeah, Donald, happy? Yeah, thank you. Anyone against? No? Carried. Thank you. And you also wanted the approval of anything
Yes.
else that might need to be agreed between the three of us.
Yeah, so there would actually be left over in the budget £472.40. So whether you want to delegate to the chair and vice chair approval of any additional expenditure up to that, subject to completed grant application forms and proof of suitable insurance being in place. Should we get any late applications?
Okay, everyone happy?
Yeah.
Thank you. Show of hands. Thank you. Nothing else on the vote before.
Yes, there is, and the other motion is whether you want to approve each of these as a rolling grant. In other words, rather than going through quite such the process we've been through this time, arrangements will be in place for 2025, 26 and 2027, subject obviously to the motion you've already approved regarding when lights can go on and when they should not go on.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favour? Thank you. Right.
Lovely.
Moving on, item 58, Honley Library had a report from the trustees. Any queries about the report? It seemed to me to be a good, clear, concise report, and a very positive one as well, I think. Sorry?
Hopefully their auction event with around, so,
Yeah, it did go well, didn't it? Yeah, they put it on Facebook and so on as well.
yeah, some of that one's got prizes.
Anything anything else, any points you want to raise?
Chair, I've got some handouts which I didn't include in the papers because they look much better in colour. So these were also provided by Friends of Pondley Library in terms of letting the committee know the things that they are running at the moment. Just pass them to.
Oh, Stevie Dollars. We've done the talk. Oh no, no, no. Well, he's written a book, he published a book about, yeah, I know. Oh, yes. I've not read them, but I know it's all.
Yeah.
Just give a moment for people to have a quick look at these in case there's anything you wanted to question in this item.
This is really good. It's really good, the range of activities that they're providing and stuff for the community. Brilliant.
And I think they've recruited some more volunteers as well, I think I saw somewhere.
They actually sent an email saying don't take too many slots because some volunteers don't get a chance to have a go.
Yeah.
That's how popular we are.
Wow. Those too many volunteers now.
I do understand that, I don't know if anyone else has picked this up, that the process that Kirklees are going through is not quite concluded. They might have reached a decision about the CML model. They've still got to save money. So there is, I haven't heard any more detail than that.
So Chair, I might suggest that in minutes I'll note that Pondley Library's got planning permission for their extension and that they've reported to us that they're looking to do that in 2 stages, as I understand. And as part of that, they're not going to be looking at calling upon the £15,000 EMR in this financial year.
So we can consider that as we go into the, when we look at the budget.
Yeah, so I'll just note those things in
Yeah.
a minute. It doesn't require a motion,
No.
but just so that it's there.
Does anybody want to raise anything else about Pondley Library before I move on to the next item? No? Good. We'll obviously thank them for the report. Hungerford Civic Hall Community Trust, again, Dawn has put a report in. A little update on this, that it was suggested, maybe resolved, I can't remember, at the full council meeting, that I would meet with, either attend the trustees meeting, which I don't think is for a little while actually, or meet with Alex Bray and Andy Wilson, but I'm doing that tomorrow. I'm meeting with them. So I may not, I don't think I know much more after tomorrow, but anyway, just to update on that. Is there anything that anyone wants to raise for a chance to read the report? Yeah, nothing else anyone wants to bring up? We did, I mean, Jen and I spoke about the other day, spoke a little bit about this the other day, and felt, you know, there was no point in having a conversation about the Civic Hall that just repeated what we've already been talking about, and to be honest, we don't know any more than we knew at the council meeting. So, okay, in that case, just noted, and to thank them for the report. Is that right? Nothing else that you can think of, Ken?
No, I did get an email today from Dawn telling me that their application to the BCSE Energy Efficiency Scheme hasn't gone through, although they've been signposted to the Energy Resilience Fund that they are looking to do a grant application to.
Thank you. Okay, so we've noted. Moving on, 242560 is Gartside Buildings update. You want to update them?
Yeah, there's quite a few things to update the committee about regarding the Gartside building. we did have to chase up the October rent payment, and I'd just like to give my thanks to Rich for creating invoices and so forth for the rent payment. As I understand it, Epics are struggling at the moment to appoint a finance officer, but once they've got that person in place, things should be much smoother. There was an issue that became evident during the Food and Drink Festival, that there was a sewerage pipe that wasn't properly capped off in the Gartside unit. That's been dealt with thanks to our contractor. There are some business plaque designs that Epics are considering having made for the front of the building to show what they are, and they would like, to share their designs thus far with the committee, in case anyone's got any comment on those. I still need to reimburse them for the refitting costs that were discussed at the last meeting, and to order the notice board. I have had a meeting with one of the Epic staff looking at the vent area and discussing the window. So what I can report back on that is I believe that Epics would be quite happy for the window literally just to be the size of the vent area. Now where that vent is, and I know this was something that was discussed at the last Service Provision Committee meeting, where that vent is, actually there isn't any opportunity for people, passers-by, to look in. It's too high. But the things that Epics would most like is to get the natural light in. So even though it's not really a display window, if you like, and obviously we would have to think about how any window was going to be secure, so that would be an additional cost we need to think about. It is because they're wanting the natural light to make the area as pleasant as possible. They do get that natural light if they open the outer door and the light comes in, and there are the 3 belluxes as well. But that would sort of certainly brighten up that area of the unit. So I can report that to you. So one of the things you need to think about is whether you want us to, how you want us to commission this work done on a window. When I last talked to John Ford, when a previous tenant was talking about wanting a window in, I think the quote was £2,000 to get a window, about several years ago now, and that was just one quote from one person. So the first thing you have to think about is this something that you are interested as a committee in us looking at and doing? And if so, how do you want to go about it?
Comments? Does everyone know what we're talking about here? Yeah.
Sorry, I feel that was quite confused.
No, I didn't mean about that. I mean in terms of visualising which part of the building we're talking about.
It's a small vent quite high up on
Yeah.
the left hand side, when you walk in.
Jane?
I think maybe get some quotes and then we can make the decision then on that basis. I think you'll find that they vary quite a lot depending on who you go to.
Yeah, whether they want to work or not. Yeah.
Whether they want to work or not, yeah, sure, but also some of that numbers, yeah.
Thank you.
From someone who's just had recently
Sarah? Sorry.
a few windows, but yeah.
I think we should definitely go ahead with it. Definitely go for quotes and then go with what seems to be the best one really, because this is coming up year after year after year, and it's not really a very pleasant space to be in at the moment, and it does need more light. And if we are, if we're going to let it again, the same thing will come up. I think we ought to. Even though Epics is happy with just glazing the existing vent, I think we should perhaps also get quotes for enlarging the size of the window as well, like to
Sorry, Alison.
Yeah, I was just going to agree with you, because I looked in there the other day and looked at the toilets and said, oh, it's a horrible sweaty, it's really tacky.
Tom?
Yeah, like the van, I think it's quite small than one of the pictures behind where Chris is. It's very small. I don't know how much of a difference it would make in terms of light, and the amount of money it would cost to do it. Wouldn't it be better to knock a big hole in the wall and put a proper window in there? But if they don't want that, it's just, I don't know. I agree with Mary that we should get quotes for both. But I think like, will we need planning permission for it as well? Will we need planning permission if we put a small window in where the vent is? I don't know. It's just, yeah, I know, we might do. And it's just like, if we're going to get planning permission, we might as well get planning permission for a big window there and to hell with it, get it done.
Maybe some conservation.
Rather than just do a part job and then someone come back in 2 or 3 years time and say, oh, we want a window put in there. It's just, yeah, it just needs doing, doesn't it, I think. So I think we're best off getting quotes for both like Mary suggested and then deciding what we want to do.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'd just like to say, if you're going to get quotes for anything that's done at the Civic Hall, anything that's done for the parish council, whatever the costing, you obviously go for the cheapest job. Well, it isn't always the best, so my idea would be to do exactly what we used to do. We used to go to the person who sent the price in and go and ask him to take us onto a job that is already done. Because you'd be amazed what you find, you know, if you don't do that. You set a guy on it's cheap, and before you know where you are, it's costing you a lot more money. You're best setting somebody on to go and look at the job, the last job he did. We never did anything without doing that, because if you don't, it can be, you know, you lift your leg and that's it. Just an idea.
No, fair comment, thank you. Can I just add a thought here as well in terms of extension? I'm not suggesting this is necessarily appropriate for this particular job, but we have talked previously about whether we might talk to Epic about whether, you know, they share some costs of certain things. Now, I'm not saying for this job, it seems to me that this, personally, I think this is a job, you know, a substantial job in what is going to be a long-term sort of improvement for us. But there may be other things where we do speak to them about sharing some costs. Jen, do you want to say something?
I think you need to talk budget for it as well, you know, because there is an EMR, I'm just trying to find out the.
You know, Rich, you want to
And the specification as well, you know, in terms of what you're wanting, because it certainly occurs to me that you'll need something in terms of security. Not being a builder or installing windows, I'm not quite sure what I'm thinking of, but you know, it's got to be.
If it's just the skylight, it's not going to be open window, is it? It's just going to let light in.
It's not going to let light in. I'm talking about the security. It is going to let light in. I'm talking about, it doesn't need to open, but it could still be broken, couldn't it?
Or well, depends on the material. You can use
Oh,
better
yeah.
material than glass cage, but you're always going to get that with windows, aren't you? But in terms of break-ins, I mean, I don't know how much bicycle repairing equipment, etc. they've got in there and the value of it. If it's not open, you're unlikely to have a break-in. So.
It's a very visible spot as well, I think, in terms of the rest of the town and bus station. Have you got a figure for us, Rich?
I mean, at the moment there's 3,272 in, but that's not taking account of what Jen said about the refurb. How much is that about? Paying them back for what they.
It's no more than 500.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, and there's a notice board as well.
That's about 500 or 600,
Yeah.
is it? Yeah. So there'll still be a couple of thousand probably, but.
But we're expecting this job to be even smaller job, isn't we're expecting to be
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Okay.
The window that was quoted for before, was that just the small vent one, or was it a bigger one?
Just a small vent one.
Well, it's knocking out the stone, isn't it, making good, and then putting them in frame and everything else.
Massive job.
Yeah.
Positive, it's just a grill.
No,
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 just
no.
take the grill out, put a window in.
No, I mean, if we do the big one, though.
Yeah, yes, totally agree. Then you'd be talking about quite a lot of money.
Should be shouldn't that much, yeah.
Shouldn't be that much, though. No, I mean, we had a window put in our cellar just recently. A fair sized window, and it was about £400. But they didn't have to knock through anything, you know, it was replacing what was already there.
Mm.
I think I'd need to go back and check actually that first estimate. I sort of assumed it was just knocking for the size there, but maybe it was something bigger.
Do we need to think here about time scale as well? I'm just thinking how this might fit with the budget and next year's budget.
Yeah,
They would like the uni as soon as possible.
they would, yeah.
For us, it doesn't make too much difference, you know, we'd like it doing at some point, but in terms of our interest in that building and so on. Sorry, we're looking at each other.
You've got quite a few things going on here, haven't you?
Yeah.
Because Ethics have only requested the size of the vent, but you're looking longer term in thinking about, you know, this unit that is going to sort of go beyond the ethics tendency,
And it's
quite
appeal and
possibly.
so on, yes.
So it's a longer term project, therefore, isn't it? Quite potentially.
Okay.
The other question I've got is, there's one of the vents being put in architecturally for a reason. That it was considered that we needed a vent at some point. So if we block it off with a window that doesn't open,
It's got a
is that going to cause a problem?
No, it was a vent when that was the gents' toilet, and there's a vent at either end, and neither of them work, actually. So, because they put a wall in, it isn't a vent. It doesn't work.
Okay.
But there is ventilation through the skylight if needed as well, isn't there? No, right.
No circulation.
Don't get you started, I know. Sorry, Ken.
We're having a condition survey done on the toilets, and it just occurred to me that ventilation is one of the issues in the toilets, definitely.
Yeah.
So therefore, potentially, an issue in this building as well. I mean, in a way, perhaps these two things need to be looked at together rather than separately.
That crossed my mind, actually, looking at the building as a whole.
Sorry to make it more complicated,
Thanks.
but
I mean, do you want to look at maybe a figure of, you know, from the point of view of expenditure, even though we don't have this money, enough money in the EMR, but would we look in principle, say up to £5,000 for this particular job?
I mean,
Sorry.
the other thing you might do is, because when the toilets refurb EMR was created, I did wonder if that confused the matter, or whether it had been perhaps more sensible just leaving the Gartside unit as a more holistic thing. You could just put all of the money in there for the window and for any refurb of the toilets at the same time without needing two separate pots, essentially.
Yeah, and I think actually on the budget, don't we talk about toilets day to day and toilets lettable space as well? So you know, it's almost as if we refer to the building as a whole.
But you know, just because there's only one earmark reserve doesn't mean that can't go to multiple budget lines.
Which makes me think even more that we might look at up to £5,000 for this window.
Yeah.
We should be able to find it one way or another within the EMR.
So that's for a large window, 5,000 and something.
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to get some sort of approval so that it gives enough flexibility to then get the costings and look at those options and so on.
I mean, I know we're going on to working groups later. I think you possibly need a working group to project manage this, because it's going to, you know, it's a significant project, isn't it?
let's move to a decision. Does anybody, okay, anyone want to put themselves forward for a working group to look at this? Immediately huge, I mean, I'm happy to be on it.
Except for, oh, sorry,
There you go. You got it.
except for what Gemma said, but do you look
Yeah.
as a whole?
For the whole building,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then, as you say, take them into different parts depending on what you're doing, but you actually have got an overall plan of what you're doing.
Okay.
Does that sound more sensible than having like a bit?
We could have, okay, well, we can do that. We could certainly, include yourselves, because you're already looking at the other
We
car.
sort of started,
Yeah,
haven't we?
and coming to this, and between us, we'll reach a decision that'll be accountable. Is that okay? Okay. I know it's vague. I don't know how you're going to word this, but
I find words.
I think you are extending the remit of the toilets working group
Yeah.
Yes.
to look at all the structural issues connected to that building and delegating management of the project to that committee, including the Gartside unit bits.
okay. And you can bring Glenn and I into that if you need for that additional sort of decision making. Is that right? Yeah. I knew you funded.
I think the issue is that the whole project has got a lot bigger now. There's a whole window thing. There's the survey that we're talking about later on. There's a toilets refurb as well. It's become a bit of a beast, doesn't it? Really.
I'm not daunted.
Yeah, no, there's quite a lot to it.
We don't know how much of a
But
piece it is.
it's all linked together though. It's like the conditional survey drives a lot of this stuff.
Yes.
And how we want to do and how we're going to do it. It's limitless how big you want it to be and how nice if we do it. It just depends on the scale of everything and money.
No, I agree about the scale, but it's not limitless.
No.
Yeah, Chris.
But in terms of the window that Ethics are asking for, we can tell them that, well, actually, we're doing a full survey of our building and hopefully will be covered as part of it.
And incorporate
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
We can tell them that for now, can't we?
I tell them, yeah.
And it's like, I mean, it's like the Civic on a smaller scale. It's an asset that we need to invest in.
Is that enough for now? Or do you need a further resolution?
So are yourself and Glenn joining this working group then?
Well,
This,
I think we can get involved as, to the extent that you need and want us to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I agree.
Let's move to that decision.
Yeah, I'm just getting more and more ideas and more thoughts in my head.
Stop it, stop
He
it.
started photographing of public toilets.
Oh, have you?
She should never do it.
I'm winning him over, it's all right.
and
There's no people featuring in this.
you've not taken a vote yet, and before you do, what do you want to include or say regarding budget?
I'm just wondering whether we,
Or is
do we
that
want to move on
something-
to the next item before we do that?
Maybe you want,
Because Rich is proposing that it may be that we look at that in both the emails.
yeah, and it could be that you come back in December,
Yeah.
not
Amend
December,
it.
February with, because that's one of the issues, isn't it? Your next meeting is February. Yeah.
Well, it is, and there could be quite a bit happens between now and February, I think, in terms of survey on the toilets, etc.
Surely the survey will give you some indication as to what your budget might need to be.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, that's.
So wait till the survey.
So we'll basically be taking a message back to ethics that they're going to need to be patient because it's a bigger project, and it's part of an overall project for that building.
In a sense, they took the tenancy.
It's something we want to do.
Yeah.
So you've got the motion on the table then to extend the Home First Toilets working group to include the chair and vice chair service provision as necessary to look at all structural issues connected to that building, including the fitting of a window where the vent is.
Okay. And enough, is that enough now in terms of the budget? That's enough for now, Rich? Thanks.
Do you want to?
Take a vote?
Yeah, yeah.
All in favour of that motion? Any against? Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we'll move swiftly on then to home for public toilets. We have news of the press.
You do? So, I met with Alison Ford and an architect to look at the toilets and talk to one of the people out to clean the toilets as well. So a really good chat about the shortcomings of the building. From their point of view, the practical side, not being able to keep it clean, sparkling. But from the architect's point of view, from some of the shortcomings that actually, well, one of them was illegal actually, of things that are happening in the building. And one of them is the division between the outside unit and the toilet, which is not right. But anyway, so we had this good discussion, and he knows, you know, what we would like. And he's done a fee proposal to bring to this meeting tonight, and it's £1,920, including VAT. And he's given a list of the things that we will do, and it's pretty comprehensive actually. And it's about the internal fixtures and fittings, the ventilation, the ease of cleaning, about circulation, the way people use the space, because it's a bit rapid. You can read it, I'll put it on an email and then you can see it. But I was quite reassured that he seemed to have a really good idea of what the roof was, and he understands that we won't be able to do anything about improving it until we've decided how much that would cost, and that's what he's going to do. And Alison Ford was delighted, because she said, we've got a pretty shabby building.
What was the legality issue with that?
He says about there not being a fire break. Fire break
Do
too.
you need to go into private session for this?
I can't go into many more details.
Yeah, all right, well.
No,
Yeah.
that would be it, but
Yeah.
yeah. And there was quite a few issues about plumbing, which we'll be raising and not to do.
Do we have an idea of timescale?
No,
for the
all
survey?
he did was, because we met last week, and then he said, I will get you my thoughts and the price before this meeting, and then I'll speak to him again after the meeting and decide whether that's okay or not. Because we had this outline budget of 4,000 for the toilet improvements, and it seemed sensible to use a chunk of it to actually have a plant campaign with it.
Any thoughts? So we're looking to approve spending on for that survey
I
report?
think you've already approved the expenditure, so maybe approve the payment. No, not bother, Rich?
No?
No, that's still F&M or council.
Right.
We'd need to
So-
approve that.
So do we
Okay.
need to make a recommendation,
Recommendation.
or just can go?
No?
No.
We don't need to do that.
No, you approve the expenditure, expenditure is so foolish really. The expenditure is you saying to somebody, yes, do the job. It's not involved in the payment of actual money, but only council or F&M can pay actual money, so that's where it's a bit of a,
So we're just noting this at the moment.
yeah.
Okay.
But we're accepting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't need to get 3 quotes to it, Rich, because we used to rule about that, didn't we, for stuff like this.
I mean, there's rules about, I think it's below the threshold, I think is it 3,000? I think below 3,000 you just got to find best value, I think is.
Alright, second it.
So we're noting that that's going
Noted,
ahead.
yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for organising that.
Thanks, Alison.
Okay. Now, there's a couple of other points in terms of the public toilets, about the tendering process and so
Yeah.
on. We don't need to go into private session for this, do we?
No, we don't. So, previously, the contract for the cleaning of home birth toilets and the maintenance of our small assets has been done by annual letter. Now, obviously, we're in the process of forming this tendering process for the contract, but in the meantime, we still need to confirm with our current contractor that we want what's in place currently to continue until either the 1st of April 2025 or the conclusion of the tendering process, whichever is sooner. So we're just sort of making sure we've got that covered.
Okay. So you need this voted on.
Yes.
Yes.
So yes.
All in favour of extending the contract until 1st of April for the reasons explained? Thank you. Carried. Nothing else. So let's moving on to item 62, the other assets. We've had a report in the pack from John. Any questions that anyone wants to raise about that report? No.
It's really good.
Yeah. Okay, Mary.
Not a question, but I'd just like to recognise what they said about the new employee, Stuart, isn't it? I just think that, I thought that was just wholly positive.
Yeah. Yeah. Taking on that more responsibilities and things like that.
A very good thing to do.
Okay, so we're noting the report. Any other actions that arise in respect of any of those assets? War memorials that come up later.
Yeah, just to say that I've asked John to look at Home Village phone kiosk. It's been reported to me that maybe that needs a refresh of paint. So I'll once I've got the report from John, I'll probably be authorising that to go ahead.
Smack bang next to where they've got the tree up, actually. Yeah.
And just to say that, yeah, I'm still working on the application for Hepworth War Memorial in terms of for getting a grant from the War Memorials Trust. I think that will come up later when we're talking about the budget as well.
And we would also like to again approve extending the contract.
Yes.
So it's exactly the same arguments, same case as we just had regarding the maintenance of the toilets. So it's extending the contract to the 1st of April in respect of the maintenance of the assets and so on. All in favour? Thank you. Okay. Moving on, item 63 is New Mill Cemetery. There's still an action that we have to conclude on that.
Yeah, I still need to arrange a meeting with the church authorities so that we can review the schedule of works as part of the tendering process in any case. But I know that there is a change of minister, so but that will have happened, and I'll be ready to report back on that at the February meeting.
I'm not sure they're replacing the minister, but
No, apparently not.
okay, so that's just noted. We don't need anything further on that. Right, public area litter and dog waste management strategy. I know you only come here for this particular item. So, we've been busy, haven't we, colleagues, comrades? We've been prowling sands, wreck. Mary, do you want to report?
Well, I think there's very little to add to this. It's very comprehensive. It's very comprehensive in the agenda. Yes, we did. We went bothering dog walkers on two occasions, and it led to some very interesting conversations, really, and I think largely reinforced the conclusions that we'd already come to.
Because we asked the right questions, that's why.
Well, there were some leading questions, but people seem quite pleased to talk about it. And you know, took the whole thing incredibly seriously. So I'm slightly sceptical, I must admit, before we set off. But actually, once we talked to a couple of people, I thought, actually, this is a really good thing to do. We'll probably do it for other parts of our service as well. So really, it's, as I say, it's very comprehensive here, and what we want to consider is set out very, very clearly there. So it would involve some moving around of bins. Where there really seems to be a need for a bin is where you come on. I think it's no longer just a permissive path, and it now actually a proper path. I'm not sure. Well, it's been through the process. Just by the cricket ground where you come off past the bridge fabrications and come off there. We feel it would be a good idea to have a bin there, which is where people enter or leave if they're going the other way, leave sounds. So, and obviously the bins are provided with Kirklees Council, so any of this can only be done in discussion with Kirklees Council. But it became that the two unofficial waste bins, dog waste bins, were both of them pretty full. And I kind of got the impression that the volunteers that are supposed to be emptying were perhaps struggling a bit.
Well, I did speak to Anita.
Yeah. So once the bins are re-stickered, I think a lot of it is lack of knowledge really, that in most bins it's possible to put in dog waste in ordinary bins. The exception really is bins close to children's playgrounds really. So it could do with some more stickering of the bins with information about what can go in them. The perhaps slightly more controversial view, Lawrence is looking concerned, is about further consultation on whether we ought to be actually even providing dog waste, the dog waste bin, the bags. Yeah, you know, whether rather we should be encouraging responsible dog ownership and ensure that people take. There's usually every time I've been through there, there's always plenty of dog walkers, and a couple of dog walkers actually did say that to us, that really people should be providing their own bags, and if they kind of cut short, then they would ask another dog walker for one. So you know, I've thought for some time maybe this is not the best policy actually providing pool bags. So. But that's probably, I guess other people may have different views, and I think that's probably open for discussion. But whether we wish to discuss it now, I don't know.
I'm going to suggest that we don't discuss it now. I mean, it was part of the remit of our working group that we would consider that whole sort of strategy and so on. So we could perhaps think about some more and talk to people and come back with a proposal. Is my suggestion. It doesn't rule out there being one in Hepworth. Was it?
It was a new mill.
Oh, was it the new mill?
New mill by the school, which I took a picture of to give to you. No, it's just near the school, the amount of dog muck around there. It's got a bit better recently. But at the start of the term, it was terrible. There were loads of it around, and then you don't want kids standing in it. So like, it might be an idea that rather than have them near parks where they're kind of out in nature, aren't they? So if people are going to leave it there in certain places, it's not as bad. But like when they leave it outside schools or near school routes, that's what really annoys me the most, because that's really dirty. You're going to have loads of little kids getting around there. And I suppose that's right at parks, there's kids there. And if kids get it in their hands and put it in their eyes, it can cause blindness. So it just really makes me angry.
So are the bins near the school?
There's a bin near the school in New Mill, yeah. And where we're going to put the dispenser is just right next to where the bin is. So it's just people
And that's near the school?
Yeah.
So that sounds like it's in the wrong place.
It's just people that are lazy. They can't be bothered picking it up.
Of course.
I'm going to ask whether everyone here is okay with us using. There is an EMR. This is a fair bit lower than the EMR that we've got in terms of the bins. You know, sort of paying Kirklees to replace some of the bins. There wouldn't be any new bins. Well, there would be new bins. There wouldn't be any extra bins, but they would be relocated as Mary has described. I'm take the vote on this, I think.
And Kirklees will empty these bins rather than the volunteers doing it.
That, oh, certainly, yeah, but that's what we've got to then get in. If you're okay with approving this today, we'll then have that negotiation with Kirklees, because maybe they'll say, look, that where you want that bin is fine, except that's not on an emptying round for us. So, so we have to look at that detail, but it's a bit chicken and egg this really, so it's whether you approve this in principle, and then we'll look at the detail with Kirklees.
So do you want to consider all 4 proposals together?
I think so, unless anyone's got any objections to that.
So you need a second?
Okay, Mary, okay, Mary and Jane.
Is this removing the poo bags as well from stands?
No, it's saying there'll be further consultation. For the moment, it remains. We're not making a firm decision on that. I think that's right.
That's fine.
Yeah, because I was just going to say that. I just think that if I've been out on the dog before, and you sometimes go out with 2 or 3 bags, and something happens, and you end up running out of bags, and if these bags are from dispensers, most of the time people are going in there and nicking loads and not serving the purpose. But if they do, if every so often there is a case where someone doesn't run out of bags and they use it and they actually use it to poo rather than leaving it there, then
Excuse me, I'm here, just a second.
perfect. No, if it does stop like one happening, one person leaving somewhere, and like my son walking in it, which is really infuriating when they do walk in it. It's horrible. It gets to get it out and all that kind of stuff. And it happened last week when we were away on holiday. It happens quite often, not that often, but it does happen sometimes. There's only so much you can be watching your kids, and it happens, and it's disgusting. So like if these bags stay there and they do stop it happening occasionally, then it's better than them not being there at all.
Can I just say, rather than getting to the deep conversation like this now, much as everyone wants to, what we'll do, can I say, that we will consult with yourself as part of that sort of, considerations and so on, before coming back with any sort of recommendation.
I get what you mean. It's totally get what you mean.
Okay, so, we voted,
No, you haven't voted.
We've not voted, sorry. We've got proposer, second that, all in favour? Any against? One against. Any abstentions? Thank you.
Do you want to bring forward item 66 so that Susan...
Yes, that would be helpful. Is that okay? So we're just skipping item 65 for the moment. Item 66 is youth work in the Home Valley. Richie,
Yeah, where did you go?
presumably just probably this there.
Well, there's one more thing you could do, because important info with ecological signs,
Great.
on our posters, I'll pick them up.
Well, information sign is higher.
It has worked.
Information is one of part of the remit.
Not following the standard areas, for long.
More of a stick than a carrot.
Yeah.
Okay. More of a stick for the dogs than a carrot. Hiya.
Oh,
All right, nice to see you. Thank you for coming.
no problem.
So we're just getting on to the youth work item now. We just, for everyone's benefit here, we've had a report from Susan which you've already had in your pack. I'll let you speak to that report if you like, and anything else you want to say at this point, and then open it up for questions and discussion.
Yeah, of course, and I thought it would be more questions, so I won't necessarily go through it, well, I definitely will go through it line by line. But I suppose the report's just outlining that we've had a relationship for the last year and a half or so, and that has borne fruit. We've got a core youth work offer in place in the Home Valley. It's working really well. It's creating positive outcomes for young people as we'd hoped, and it's building the capacity of local organisations. It's supporting existing organisations in the area, and to do that we've employed a half-time youth worker. So they're employed by Kirklees Youth Alliance, but they're dedicated to the Home Valley area, and that's an 18.5-hour post, which is paid for. has been paid for over the last year by a Home Valley Parish Council grant. That grant has also provided a bit of sustainability funding for Enabling Youth, which is the organisation that runs the youth clubs at the Phoenix Centre on Dunford Road. And that's really it in a nutshell. I mean, we'd love to continue it. That's all. It's going really well. The relationships have been built with Cafe 100, Honley Youth and Enabling Youth to the point where they're now sort of buying in time from the youth workers. So the youth workers post is going to be extended from 2.5 days a week to 4 days a week, which is great for the Home Valley. It remains a Home Valley dedicated post. So the work that Tyler does can be extended, really. And yeah, that's it. We've introduced a computer system, I suppose, now. That was in our update reports. That is functioning now. So Tyler is able to record young people's registrations on our dedicated system, and we can monitor attendances and young people's progress on that. So that's good.
Can I just ask on that, Susan?
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm mistaken, but I think in this report you didn't say much about the, how many young people are being reached. I know you said that in the past, and you gave a very detailed breakdown in the past. How's it going in terms of reaching young people?
It's good. So I think Tyler and that would the last because I have done that in progress reports. How many young people are registered? What the average attendances are? And then we start to talk about the actual outcomes. So I don't have figures to hand, but I know she introduced the new registration form in September to Cafe 100 and Phoenix Centre Junior and Seniors, and I know that she told me that the numbers at Phoenix are double from when she took over. So I don't know the exact numbers, but the registrations have doubled. So they're in the region of, there must be about 30 young people registered at the Phoenix Centre. And Cafe 100 is a much smaller provision, but they have constant, around, I think it's 10 to 15 young people come every session to that. It doesn't tend to fluctuate, but it is the same young people. But Tyler speaks very highly of that provision in that it seems to attract the young people that need interventions, whereas Phoenix Centre is much more of a generic sort of youth centre, open to everyone, and has just a variety of standard activities there. But Cafe 100 she does more intervention work with young people. There's 3 out of those 10 to 15 are not in mainstream school. So that's an example, and there's young people from the children's
I will warn you
school.
from this point, we're being filmed. This is public. No, I was going to say this is public information, so I just need you to know that we're being filmed at the moment.
Yeah, all right.
So we'll be on YouTube. I'm just warning you, depending on what you're going to say.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
I didn't realise that, but no, that's all public information. So it's going well.
Okay, Mary.
I think probably Jane and I are probably going to say the same thing, which is that Jane and Lawrence and I, we went to visit, I think we did about an hour, I think, in the end, the session on, the Monday session at Cafe 100, and I was certainly hugely impressed by what was going on there with that particular group of young people.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to ask, because it says in the report that we're doing some detached youth work in Honley.
Yes.
But I gather that's moved on from there, hasn't it? Yeah. Could you just?
Yeah. So the original plan in Honley was to do an outreach and a drop-in sort of service, because that's what we had started in Meltham, and that was working really well. So we thought we'll replicate that in Honley. It just didn't take off. So we rented the Honley Village Hall as the drop-in, and then Tyler was just going for an hour's walk around and about just at spaces that the community safety officer had highlighted to us as being places that young people hung out at. But she wasn't coming across many young people and no one was coming to the drop-in. So we changed it to detached youth work, which is street-based youth work, where you go where young people are at, and we focus that around Jagger and Rec. So she's been doing that over the summer, after we stopped the drop-in. But again, numbers haven't been massive. And the young people that she has engaged with have just said they want somewhere to go inside. So we're back to doing a youth club there. So the youth club's starting this Friday, and it's following exactly the same format as the Phoenix Centre. The junior one, the 5 to 6:30, and then the senior one 6:30 to 8. So it's nice that the two are matching each other. It's going to be exactly the same provision in Holmfirth Centre and Honley Village, which is good.
Jane, did you want to? No, it's all right.
Similar, really. I wanted to say, I thought Tyler's doing a brilliant job. She had a really good relationship with all the young people, but she also sort of managed them in a very constructive way. So she knew the sort of boundaries. She'd sort of pull them in, sort of every now and then if they got a bit too sort of overexcited. And the space, I don't know whether you'll be able to. You can keep that space, but it is a good space, isn't it?
It is for that group of young people,
yeah.
it really is.
Yeah.
It does need a bit of maintenance work, and there's some health and safety issues through the winter and the approach to the building. But yeah, hopefully, Tyler's very happy there, and I know the young people are.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they will be.
they all
Yeah,
want to
sure.
continue there.
And especially for vulnerable young people, then it's a really nice sort of safe space for those young people.
Yeah, and I do think there is the need for that type of provision as well as the larger, more open access provision in Holmfirth, which is why we've always pursued that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Did you want to say anything?
No, I'm just concur with everything that's been said. Obviously, we've had lots of conversations with KYA through Honley Youth as to how we can extend the Honley offering by providing additional funds. So obviously, Honley Parish Council are buying some time, we're buying more time, which will allow Tyler to do more. I think it's good for the Home Valley as a whole. It's great that these other groups have seen what Tyler's been doing and are impressed, so wanting to buy more of her time. So it give, we've almost got a full-time youth worker rather than a part-time youth worker across the Home Valley now, which is brilliant. So, yeah, I concur with everything that's been said. It's working well, and there's positive messages coming out, which is what you want.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else want to say anything?
I was just going to ask a question. When you said the indoor space in Holland, is that back to the village hall? No, it's in the community centre. On Stoney Lane. Yeah. And is that where you're based? I don't quite understand the link between you and Honley Youth.
So Honley Youth ran its own organisation at one point and had a youth worker. That all went when the youth worker left and the committee left. So we've reset the committee up, we've got money in the bank, so what we're doing is we're buying KY, a bit like Honley Parish Council are buying time from KY, we're doing the same thing. So that's allowed us because obviously just running the youth club in the community centre is paying for the building, it's paying for Tyler's time, not just to run it, but to set up and prep it and do all those others. So while it may seem there's 3 or 4 hours of youth sessions, actually there's another 3 or 4 hours of setting everything up and making sure and recording it and planning it, and then obviously all the stuff that comes after it. So that's allowed us to jointly run a session. It's not that we're doing it or KYA are doing it together. We're offering more in Honley.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Are you able to update us any more, Susan, about Cafe 100? Because I know there was this stuff about that you might need to look for a different location. Is there anything you need from the committee regarding that?
Not yet. Tyler responded I think she's just waiting for the trustees of Cafe 100 to get back in touch with her, because I certainly haven't been told it was closing or we weren't going to be able to use it. That's not what I've been told. We have had concerns about the maintenance side of things, but, you know, that's, we did actually source a local business that was willing to donate time to do some repairs there, but the church got a bit cross with us. But anyway, so we're just waiting to hear about,
I mean, there is something about the kind of, you know, slightly, ramshackle's perhaps the wrong word, but you know what I mean, you know, slightly sort of run-down feel to the room, but somehow made it feel as if it worked for the young people there as well, and, you know, in I don't know, you know, it's not in a pristine condition.
That's a bit of a shame, it's a bit of a sad thing, I
Perhaps
think,
so,
that
yeah.
if you go into a place that really smells of damp and it's feisty and that's where the young people there feel comfortable, I think that's really quite sad, and says something about, you know, that cohort, but they're there, they like it. It is, as someone said, a safe space for them. They recognise that, and that's incredibly important for those groups of young people. They'll like it if it's improved, of course, but yeah, they kind of like it as it is, yeah, they do.
Okay, well, thank you for that. We've got one, so we're noting your report, thank you. We've got an approval, we've got a proposal regarding the payment of £5,000 from budget line. Do you want to say anything about this, Rich?
Only to say it's expenditure you're approving rather than paying.
Sorry, it's my fault.
Expenditure of £5,000 from budget line 476, so the youth work line. So we're looking for approval.
Yeah, it's just this will be at every meeting that you're doing this 5,000 per.
So we're releasing it effectively. Yeah.
I'm sorry if I'm sounding being pernickety. It does mean essentially that this decision is going to well be paid. Because they're on the list of regular payments, all it needs is your signature and Councillor Blacker's signature and it's paid. But this committee itself cannot approve the payment, that's all.
It can't, so I don't need to vote on it.
No, you're approving expenditure.
Right.
It's different.
Okay. Right.
You're not.
All in favour of approving the expenditure? Anyone against? Yeah, carried. Thank you, and thank you, you know, so much. Well, for the service that you and Tyler and others are providing, and thanks for coming tonight.
Thanks for your support. It's honestly, I keep saying, it's the best example in Kirklees, so I'm very proud of it.
Well, we have this celebration event on. Tyler's coming today,
Yeah.
but certainly from a parish council point of view, we're crowing about it. You know, we're proud of what's happening there.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's working.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I will do. So the item that we just jumped over there was tourism, which is now on our regular agenda, and it's for me to feedback on this. And basically, I can report that I've formed, on your behalf, hope you like it, a partnership with Home Firth Forward, Kirklees Library / Tourist Information, and also initially Home Firth Conservation Group. The expectation is that this will expand as a partnership and include far more organisations, and particularly, you know, looking to Onley as well, and any groups and so on that want to be involved in it. There's a couple of initial, so the partnership is as loose as that, you know, working together. It will work under the umbrella of Home Firth Forward, with a particular reason for that being, to my mind, that they've already got all the setup. You know, that doesn't need to involve setting up a new company, new bank accounts, new charitable status, or anything like that, because Home Firth Forward already have that. So the partnership can work under that umbrella. And they're very pleased to be doing that because it fits very well with what they're trying to do as well in Firth and beyond. And the first couple of initiatives in this is there's some work going on at the library in terms of expanding the information services available to tourists and locals as well who are interested in lots of these, what's on offer locally and so on. The Conservation Group are taking a more serious look at the Heritage Week, which came and went this year without very much happening. I think it's September of next year, and they're already planning a much more sort of substantial event, or a series of events locally, and hopefully involving various venues and so on around the valley. And the Becoming a Tourism Volunteer is another initiative that we're just looking to launch as of really this Saturday, if you like. So to try and bring people in, hoping that there are people out there who perhaps wouldn't otherwise volunteer for things, but sort of think, well, yeah, I know the valley, I'm interested in things locally, I'm interested in the heritage or whatever it might be, and want to sign up to become a part of a pool of volunteers. Hence the handout here, and that's pretty much my report. I think at the moment there is a budget set aside for this. Is it in the EMR or in the budget? I think it's an EMR. So far it's just the printing of this, which is about 30 or 40 quid, which is not much of a dent in that EMR. I am exploring some possibilities and costings for an audio trail for Home Firth, and I really don't know at this point whether that's going to be feasible financially or not, but there might be other alternatives. There are cheaper options in terms of, for example, having downloadable recordings that we can do ourselves, and now that we've got the new website, Gemma tells me, it's certainly possible that we could do that. So that might be a cheaper option to look at initially, to try it out as an initiative. Will you take any questions? Anyone's got any? Ones that I've got an answer to yet.
Well, I just want to say, I think it's a very good idea.
Oh, right, thank you.
And if you can get plenty of volunteers, then I think it's, and as you say, it's quite sort of flexible in terms of what you do, then, it could be very successful. Well, hopefully it will be very successful. But I guess you just got to do it in lots of different ways, I think.
I think that's right, and certainly my thinking is this won't be sort of defined too tightly, because I'd like to go wherever some of those people want it to go.
Exactly.
If they come along with a great idea, then let's run with that idea.
Sure. Yeah, that's how it'll sort of evolve then.
Exactly. Alison.
I was going to say something good and then something facetious. I said facetious one first. There's an interpretation board by the toilets with a muddy puddle in it. And I noticed years ago they'd asked to put 2 stone flags there so you can actually stand and read the interpretation board. I stood like straddled across the puddle. That would be a good start, 2 stone flags. The other one was...
Can I just answer that? Initially, I understand that was looked at originally and so on.
2017.
Yeah. And I think it was blocked beyond this council.
Well, they
so
removed the board. Yeah, something's got to give, so that doesn't work. But the thing I was going to say, more complimentary, is that Lawrence was part of a group of people that opened up Chapars as an archive day. And it's absolutely lovely. And there were exhibitions about the history of Chapars mission, but then it kind of went out into the families in the valley and what they, like pre-industrial stuff and the leaders and stuff like that. It was such a nice mixture of things, and there were audio things you could listen to. And I just felt really inspired and thought, the Civic Hall could have something like that in it. It would be really interesting, if you're talking about the heritage, to have something permanent. We had the Postcard Museum, didn't we, way back when? And we had the story of the buildings once, and it's all gone. And it was just really quite nice to feel that there was something like that was a bit more solid. Because, if you're visiting, you don't necessarily get a sense of place so quickly, but if you go in a museum or something like Chapars, you instantly do. You read all the stuff and go out with fresh eyes. So.
Because I don't know whether you've been to Saddleworth Museum, but Saddleworth's similar sort of size to here, but their
Yes.
museum is quite big and quite involved.
It's lovely.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah, it's lovely. So I think, yeah, we can have it.
Thank you.
In nine.
Absolutely. Well, Heritage Centre is still sort of around in the on the horizon. Who knows? It might happen. Tom, did you say something?
Yeah, that about the branding, the Make It Your Home Fair thing that we've seen all around. So we provided some of the brackets, didn't we, that they used for that. And at the time I was thinking, oh, what's this all going to be about? It's marketing. I'm not going to do much of it, but it's really good. It's really eye-catching. People see it when you come into the home fair, you see the bits around, and the stuff that's shared on social media, like every Monday, all the events going on in the home fair and all things like that. It's done a really good job. It's done a really good job. It looks really nice and it's good for the area. And I think occupancy rates in and around home fair are probably the best they've ever been since I've been on the council. As a destination venue, home fair is so much better. Lots of good places to go to, things going on, things to do. About what Alison said, if you look around this room, there's these pictures on the wall, like of the history of the floods. This is the boards here. There's parts of the history around the Civic Hall. There's the big bench that Bill Owen, and the plaques on the wall downstairs as well. Each of them commemorates different parts of the history of the home fair.
Yeah, but
So
sort of
lots of
kept.
that's what I mean. Like it would be nice to have like a room within the Civic where they actually did that. And I think that's a really good idea. Something to mention back to the Civic Hall people.
Yes, so perhaps, what we can do, as time moves on, we wouldn't rule out just because people wouldn't want to be volunteers in this group to say, but we don't want to hear your ideas. I think people should still be bringing in those ideas and so on. I think there's lots of ideas around, and it's quite exciting. Anything else?
Have you got many people that have already expressed an interest in volunteering?
No.
Well, that's disappointing.
No, it's only, there's lots of people that have said, so that's a good idea. But this hasn't gone out. Well, the conservation group did, yes, I think they're more animated at the moment as a group, and there's lots of overlaps between all these groups, as you know.
Has this been shared on the socials as well? I think I've seen this before.
No, because that's literally was, I picked that from the printers today. And I was hanging over two things. One is, thought we'd do it more on Saturday. The other thing is I need to brief the library more clearly about this because it does say big stuff up from information from the library.
This is like out on Facebook on the community page, and I think we will get some volunteers.
Yeah.
It's really good, and people are enthusiastic about Unferth at the moment in this future.
Yeah, and there are lots of people with pride in Unferth and Hun Valley, I think, who might come forward with this one. Okay, thank you. We've already done 66. 67 is review of the working groups. A couple of which I'm going to suggest. The youth provision. Is there anything else that anyone wants to say about youth provision that we haven't already covered? Who is the working group? Sorry, you
Yeah, so that one I think is completed and was reported to this committee as being completed. I suppose what I want to do with the others is just be clear as to what I can report to full council in December in terms of are these working groups still working?
Shall we start with transport, public transport? It's still working, but it's not as good as it could be.
No.
It's been frustrating, I think I can say. I know Alison's got views on this, which I don't disagree with. There's lots of different strands. The work that's gone on with Stops Buses, the couple of events where we had the free travel, getting the information back as to how effective that was has been difficult. Gemma's been chasing stuff. Gemma's done a lot of work with, on our behalf, I think, for this particular project. Getting some information back, but there, Park and Ride was sort of considered, still there, but not driven forward, and so on. So, in my view, I don't think. Do you want to say anything more, Alison, on this or not?
Well, we were talking about it in terms of it sort of ground to a halt really, nothing much has happened recently. But we have decided that promoting the buses in some visual way, like this, the maps on the bus station stand, information about where they go and stuff. We haven't developed that. We had it as a good idea and we haven't developed it, so I think that's what we should do.
Some work was done, Gemma did do some work on it, but it hasn't,
Yes,
it's
that's
not
what I mean,
moved.
yes, and we haven't
Yeah.
discussed it
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the energy sort of dissipated.
I agree. Yeah.
Should we have it on the next agenda as a bigger item, and then we can discuss what next moves we're going to do?
Well, in the meantime, you know, I think it's for me to call another meeting of that group and see what we can salvage, what we can move on, and so on. Yeah.
Can I just ask, which buses are you talking about? Are you talking about the little buses?
We're talking about the small
The
stops
stops
buses
buses,
really,
yeah.
but we did have a stab at talking to South Pennine, which sort of went, and they haven't responded again. So the most productive thing we had was, do people know where these buses go? And I still think that's the simplest thing to do. I think it's very hard to do other initiatives really. But that sort of simple.
Yeah, I don't know.
Promoting.
I don't
Do you know
know
your buses go
about
that way? Do you know they run until 5 o'clock? Or, you know, that's what we were thinking.
We did look at, I know Tom did some work looking at some of the routes, and but in a sense we need to get back on that. I think. Is that pretty? Is that your view as well?
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it too much the last few months, just been busy with other things. But yeah, we can get back onto it and try and something more positive with it.
You've got the phone box by the toilets, so if you wanted to commission something where you have more sort of visual display of the routes, you've got a possible place to put that.
Yeah, that's good.
Is this something we can work on with Epics as well?
Yes, and I did ask for a meeting with Kim, and she agreed, but it hasn't come back as yet. She said, "I'll get back to you." So I need to follow that up.
Because it'd be good to realise, it'd be good to kind of, I've heard little bits about Epics, but I don't really understand what they do and what they are about. I see here walk, wheel, ride, so that incorporates buses, I take it. But like, so, is this some overlap with what we're thinking and what we're talking about, or is this some kind of, where we get, I don't understand. I need to know how we can work together and form a relationship.
What I can say is that initially, as they were starting the project in Hunfirth, and partly because of the money, the conditions attached to the money that they got to set up that hub, they didn't want to dilute their sort of cycling and walking thing too much. We're looking at public transport as well, but they weren't ruling that out, in the future. So I think, as they settle into the dark side unit, there's an opportunity then to start, conversations. But you're right, yeah, there should be collaboration.
Chris,
I was just going to say what Dennis has just said about their funding being mainly for walking and something rather than public transport. What they told me.
Aaron.
I think the problem with this group was, I think it was over ambitious. There's nothing wrong with ambition, but I think it was kind of spread far too widely. And I think what we need to do is, I think that's what I was saying, is we need to identify some very specific objectives and which we can actually do something, perhaps, produce some kind of outcome in terms of some kind of document or something, but just focus on things and not cross those off as we've done them, rather than trying to be all things to all people, because I think that was the weakness of that group, and the enthusiasm kind of dissipated into it.
Yeah, I think so. Tom?
Chris was first again.
I use buses quite frequently, and the things that help me use a bus are a shelter and information about when the buses are going to arrive. And we have bus stops as part of our remit within the Home Valley. So I think that would be something that the parish council can legitimately try and support financially or whatever to try and improve public transport use, land stops or whichever bus provision.
Well, we're responsible for the stone ones, and Metro are responsible for the others.
Yeah.
What Metro's been doing is they've updated some of the bus stops with electronic very late for it, but anyway.
Well, the way you know,
too,
I noticed one in the mill yesterday, I walked past it, it's got like a button, and then if you nearly press it, there's an audio towards minibuses that come in as well.
Oh, is it?
I don't know, I just saw it as I walked past yesterday and I didn't want to press it now. But yeah, I think the remit I think that the group should have to start on will be to try and increase the patronage of the minibus and try and make the minibus increase that by greater exposure, publicity, and maybe, like I said, looking at the routes and maybe seeing how we can tinker or change things up, make the odd tweak here and there to improve it. And I think that's what our objective should be, 'cause that's where our funding goes to. So it's making the minibus better.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I was just that I think we need to concentrate on things that we have influence over, and not things that where people can just discard what we have to say anyway. So I'm just agreeing with you there.
But there's a huge information gap too, isn't there? I mean, people kind of perceive that public transport is difficult. Well, it's not difficult if you've got the information. So I think that should be part of it. But maybe when Lawrence convenes this first meeting, perhaps that we need to identify what we need to just focus in on what we can do over the next 6 months.
So I'll recall that it's an action for the chair of the working party to convene the next meeting, and an action for the working party to review the remit.
Okay. Thank you for that. Youth tourism, we said we were recovered. Home First toilets, again, you've already talked about that. Actually, the working group is working. Yeah.
Alison is mostly a bit more.
She's got the bit between it. Is that okay? Is that enough for you?
Yeah.
The tendering process.
I need to get the first meeting scheduled.
And we've already spoken about the public area litter and dog waste management strategy. We've started on something, you know, but and hopefully we are being realistic with that in terms of saying what we can achieve. But there are you know, but we also need to look at review the existing strategy and perhaps revise that. So that's where we're at with that. Is that okay? So that's everything under that item. We'll return to the budget then.
Sure.
Can you take us through, Rich?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of this committee's expenditure over this year and its projected expenditure, so basically the figures are genuine up until the end of October, then I've projected them from the end of October to the end of March. In the column available funds, that will tell you how much money each budget line is projected to have at 31st of March. So the only one that's going to be over, and it's only marginally over, is the £80 over in Ponley Library. Everything else is in budget, which is a good thing. None of them are particularly hugely under budget. The only one I'm expecting to have like a few thousand quid in is the Home for Toilets one. And I wonder then if a few years ago when we obviously put it up relatively high because it was expensive, but I wonder if there was just 1 year where we had lots of unexpected stuff that ended up in that budget line. So that's quite positive. Now myself and Lawrence and the clerk met a few days ago to just put together kind of a proposed budget. Now by proposed it just means it's something that we kind of just chatted about. It's not proposed in the sense that you can't turn around and say, no, I think that's ridiculous. It was just something that we thought a kind of rationalised thing, things that we that have already agreed, like for example the extra 30,000 on the Civic. So the proposed budget has sort of a rationalised approach to the budget lines that already exist, and I've put like a 5% inflation-based addition on top of some of the budget lines. And as you may remember from discussions about the financial regulations, we've got to have this 3-year plan now. So basically I've put a 5% over the next 3 years, so you've got this sense of a plan in that way. In terms of the earmark reserves, Now, I did, you know, because you'd kind of committed £4,000 to the Home First toilets for your, you know, your thing, but obviously it's come down a lot cheaper than that. So there'll be £2,000 more in that earmark reserve than we expected. I think you might find that there's probably going to be like 5,000 just lurking around the earmark reserves for the Gartside building / toilets. And I think it wouldn't be hard to argue that the underspend on the toilets day to day, and there should be £1,000 left in the Gartside building budget line, that should roll into the earmark reserve as well. So there might be like 6,000, 7,000 in the Gartside building earmark reserve.
Sorry, can I just clarify on that? When the £4,000 I think was set aside for the toilets, we weren't talking at that point about a survey. I don't think.
No, we were talking
Yeah,
about.
no, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about
Yeah.
flooring and
Yeah, so at the minute nothing's been spent on that.
No, I appreciate that, but the fact was that 4,000 was set aside just for the survey, and I calculated that the survey was going to spend 4,000 quid, but that's obviously not the case. So there's going to be 2,000 more than.
I don't think it was 4,000 for the survey. It was 4,000 for remedial work, I think. And then we've slightly changed the brief, so it's our fault. We've changed the brief to, hang on, let's do an overall study of it and see what we want to do. So that's why we're only spending a bit of that. But the idea, if you put it together with Gartside unit, that's helpful, isn't it? Is it?
Yeah, but I wonder if you could put like an extra X £1,000 in, like new money, say 5,000–6,000 quid, and you probably have immediately 12 or 13,000 quid with all the money you've got in earmark reserves or potential underspends on the budget. So it becomes a more usable amount of money.
Yeah, because we're assuming that this survey is going to highlight for us works that you can do. So the more money that you've got, that money's got to come from somewhere. So the more we've got for that, the better.
Yeah, I wouldn't shy away from, putting more money in an earmark reserve. I know we're conscious that we've got this extra £30,000 for the civic, but that's not come from this committee really, as it's come from council. So, Councillor Bailey suggested that that you didn't need half of the earmark reserve for public transport. So there's 2,500 there in a sense that, he suggests that you could seed away, remove. So asking for money in a different, in a different pot is not unreasonable.
If I can just justify that, the comment that I made on that, it's that I think there are initiatives that we can pursue in transport, but they're not necessarily going to be ones that are going to cost us much money.
Sure, yeah.
And the most likely thing that comes to my mind, others might have different views, the most likely thing that comes to my mind, I think we did think about subsidising some fares, but Stotts have been very helpful in terms of saying, well, for the odd event here and there, actually, they will stand the loss for that. So I'm thinking that the most likely thing is going to be spending on any promotional, any marketing stuff. Following through on that, which is not going to cost us £5,000.
So I mean, I suppose the things you're going to have to debate is whether you need some money in a budget line for the toilets or for the Gartside, extra money for the Gartside building, or extra money in an earmark reserve. Now at the moment we've put no extra, you put 40,000 or council said they need 40,000 for the civic in the budget line. Talking to the clerk and the chair, we basically argue that put nothing extra in an earmark reserve for the civic. But that's up for debate as well.
Do you want to perhaps just explain what it is you explained to me the other day about shifting money from an earmarked reserve for the civic into the budget line?
Can't remember what I said now.
I think if I remember right, it was basically it's going to get spent anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the worry, isn't it? That the more money we have available, the more that they will ask for that money, because it looks as if it's there for their use. This seems to be the worry about roofs and whatever. That there's a sense that they'll just ask for money because it's there in a pot. So it might be sensible not to have any extra money in the pot and just give them the 40,000 that we've agreed to give them as an annual thing.
The money that's being set aside in total for the civic is the same, I think, as at the moment, as it stands at the moment for next year, as it has been for this year. It's just that it will be identified as a budget item rather than an earmark.
Well, we weren't certain that it was all going to be spent, the 40,000, you know, the 30,000 in the earmark reserve. We weren't 100% certain that they would ask for it, but now it seems that we're going to pay the 40,000 every year, so it has to be in the budget really. If you're going to spend it, it's got to be in the budget. And then in terms of the other stuff, we've just kind of rationalised it really. I don't think there's anything particularly controversial about about the budgets lines that myself and Councillor Bailey and the clerk discussed. That's the one that says £152,547.50. So it's an increase of about 30 something thousand over this year's, but most of that of course is going in the civic pot. And then the only other things you're basically debating is, you know, what amount of money do you want in the Gartside building for your project? This is where it's, you know, this is where you've got to be thinking about a forward plan. I mean, the other thing that I suspect probably what will happen, you know, I know Councillor Wilson is suggesting that we should have more in general reserves that we could basically use. If money's in general reserves and you turn around and say, well, we need money for X project, then you can create an earmark reserve from general reserves. So you could do that, you know, in a mid-council year. You don't need to do it as the budget. But I would suggest you should have something just to show that you're committed to a project, that it's something you're, you know.
Rich, given that we're going to go through this tendering process and the contracts, I know we were talking about this last week. I mean, I think that's the other thing to make the committee aware of. You know, we don't know what the outcome of that tendering process will be, and that may have an impact on the budget. So just to be aware of that, and of course the contract regarding the maintenance of things like the bus shelters, the seats and so on, that's all kind of threaded through various budget lines, isn't it? And when we have done the tendering process, Rich, would we be better off having a budget line which is the maintenance contract rather than all these individual ones?
You mean in the sense that the toilets day to day has electricity and water and maintenance and hygiene and so separate them into four.
Separate those, but then the others, you know, phone boxes, New Mill Churchyard, all of those, whether they should be, you know, the maintenance contract budget line.
It would make things easier in a sense and more complicated in a sense.
I think sorry, you're first.
Alison.
My thought was, when we're looking at the new sort of tendering thing, was about separating out a budget for buying a sink, fixing some plumbing, things like that, and that the maintenance person, that the actual payment of the maintenance persons was separate, that you had two sections as well.
So one of
At
the
the moment, it's all,
improvements.
it's all coupled together,
Mm.
and sometimes the outcomes of that have not been very good, actually. So that was my suggestion.
So you would have cleaning, opening and closing, and then have consumables separate.
Yes,
Yeah.
the fund for leaks,
Yeah.
replacement toilet rolls, all those sort of things that were
Yeah.
nothing to do with paying people to do the job.
So opening, closing and cleaning, and then everything else separate. Because the way I look at it here is, if you were to group together some of these different other areas, like Jen mentioned, like the phone boxes, Newell Churchyard, and seats and shelters, then you lose visibility of how much each of the individual things cost. And I quite like having it separate, so then you can see it yourself how much each little thing is
You
costing.
still don't know, Tom, because he just buys bits of timber and rents
No,
bench.
I'm talking about the other things that for like the other things that are just like the phone boxes, the seats and shelters, and other bits. I prefer having it separate.
No, I don't disagree with that, but the things he buys to mend stuff,
Yeah,
they should be separate.
for the toilets, you mean?
Everything.
Everything.
The piece of wood for the back of the bench, everything.
For materials.
Brackets.
But it is I'm not quite sure what point you're making. It is separate. It is expensive. All the things he buys goes through expenses, and it's all separated into separate budgets.
Is it a budget though, or is it just a running cost of bits and bobs?
Can I ask, is this something we need to decide on as a committee, or is it some detail that we can work out outside of committee?
I would have thought so. Yeah, I think perhaps it's just.
It's a detailed thing.
detail,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think, take the gist of it, but, sorry.
I personally think you need to work out what your tendering process is going to be and how that's going to work, and that'll then lead you on to how you want to split it down in the budget line, rather than trying to work out the budget line before you do the tendering process.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of things we need to do, isn't there? Like have the survey done on the Garside building, and then do the tendering process before we've got an idea how much to budget for. But in general, I agree with the 5% rate part, what that was suggested there, and the proposed budget, I agree with that, but with further tweaking needed for Garside and for the tendering.
I think this is just something that you'll need to perhaps make FNM and full council aware of. You're setting your budget, but there are these things that are yet to be resolved, which may, later down the line affect the budget.
But that's back to my point about that. You could ask them to have more general reserves with this in mind. You can say we need, because we're not quite sure what we need for this plan, could we have extra in general reserves, which might then be repurposed into an earmark reserve when we have more clear idea about the future of these projects.
Is that a good practice, Rich? So they said
Yeah, no, it's probably good practice. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just ask, we're just after 9 o'clock. Can I just check that everyone's okay with us just suspending standing orders so we can conclude this item? Is that okay? Yeah. Everyone, all right. So
And then the other thing you mentioned was about the situation with the war memorial, which I think you thought might need a bigger sum of money than we've had previously.
Yes, so in terms of war memorials, I'm very conscious that I'm going to do this application to the War Memorials Trust, but every email they've sent me so far about this says, but it's very unlikely you'll get a grant, but so it's sort of, we can go through that application process, but if there are to be repairs to Hetworth War Memorial, it may well come back to Penfine Parish Council to consider, hence just considering that earmark reserve. The amount that's in it at the moment, trying to think what.
Well, in terms of what we, with the discussions we had the other day, we were talking about perhaps having an earmark reserve with 2,500 in it. That was what we discussed, wasn't it? As what you might need in this eventuality.
I've got a feeling that that's based on the one quote that we've got so far.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
yeah, but you're struggling to get any more, aren't you?
Yeah.
I think the budget budgets that we created for next year, I think they are quite rational. They haven't diverged too much from the current, for this year's budgets, apart from obviously the civic, where there's an extra 30,000. But the others, there's not a ton of change expected in the other budget lines. So I don't think there's anything particularly controversial about them as they're presented. I suppose the only thing you really got to kind of decide amongst yourselves is what you're going to do about the Gartside building. How much do you need, how much do you want in the pot to start with for your project for the entire building?
Well, before I come on to that Gartside building, can I just take a feeling from this meeting? If we maintain, as you said, most of the figures, as they have been for this past year, that reflects that we plan as a committee to continue with pretty much the same priorities and programmes that we have done for the past year. Is there any views about changing that, Jane?
Can I just ask, so that I've got these figures in my head, what proportion of the overall income that comes into the parish council is spent on the service provision?
So it's about 120,000 this year. I mean, it's a big part.
It's more than a third.
Yeah, it probably will be more. It'll be more than a third next year, taking on the civic.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
this is where most of the money goes.
Because a large bit of that other 2/3, a fair bit goes on to running ourselves, staffing and etc.
Some big ticket items, isn't there? Civic, the minibus,
Holly Library.
Holly Library, youth provision. There's a lot of the big ticket items on this committee.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
sure.
And then, I have said this already, but Councillor Bailey did suggest that the public transport earmark reserve could be cut by 2,500, so there's a bit of give and take as well.
Is there any other views about, that us maintaining, it's quite late to be discussing this perhaps, but us maintaining our same programme and priorities as we have done the past year, broadly speaking?
Well, I would say yes, we do. I mean, because a considerable amount of work went into identifying these priorities and setting a programme of work for the year and for the future. So I think it's chewing a lot, this committee, and I think we should continue and consolidate that. So I can't see it taking on any other large project or large area of activity.
Okay. Anything else?
Okay, I mean, I suppose there's a couple of things I would like you to consider in terms of resolutions. I mean, in terms of, again, the Gartside building stroke toilets, trying to make sure that there's money in a pot for that. If you could consider whether any of the underspends in the toilets day-to-day budgets 4320 and the Gartside building lettable space budgets 4325, if you could consider whether any underspending those at the year end can be rolled into an earmark reserve. So that's probably going to be 3,000 or 4,000 quid. So
for improvements.
For improvements.
Subject to what comes out of the survey and so on.
So if you could vote on that, that's a way of cobbling together a few thousand quid potentially.
Okay.
Pretty good towards the window.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then you would also want to look at maybe what kind of figure we might want to be above that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, let's. There's a proposal there. Sorry, not from Rich. There's a proposal from me.
to roll any underspend from the budget lines 4320 public toilets day-to-day and 4325 Gartside building lettable space, to roll any underspend into the earmark reserve Gartside building.
Okay.
331.
I'm happy to propose that as a seconder. Okay, lots of seconders. Any all in favour? Against? Thank you.
And then I suppose, like you just said, it's,
How much more?
extra money, if you want any extra money. I've been inclined to put, like 5,000 to 6,000 you know, at least as a starting point, and say, you know, that'll probably leave you with over 10, you know, 10 or 12 grand over.
I had a figure of 10 grand in my mind, yeah.
So it's put an additional 6,000 in that budget for the outside building and toilets.
Can you
We've
also,
got to start considering it's all in one building.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
can you also, I don't know whether you've resolved about joining these two earmark reserves together. Could you do that as well? Consider merging 351 EMR home for toiletry firm and 331 EMR guards on building.
Yeah, there seems to be a feeling people want that to happen, but also want to still be able to see some details, some breakdown and so on of certain.
Yeah, I think
and so on.
that's fair.
I think we can achieve both, can't we?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can achieve
exactly.
both.
I think it's just about minuting it properly, but
Yeah,
you've
absolutely.
got that overarching title, but it gives you more control about moving money around.
Okay. So again, thank you, Rich.
So you can
Ditto.
considering merging.
Again, I'm happy to propose that we roll those two earmarks together, but also we'll take note of the requirement for reporting details within that and so on. Any seconder for that? Thank you. You'll have to be quicker. All in favour? Thank you. Against? Anything else that you feel we
Well, I think you should. I think perhaps you just vote on the whole thing. I think those are the only bits that were fairly controversial. The rest is just either adding 5% for inflation or it's the 30,000 of the civics. I think the rest is not controversial.
And bear in mind that this will end up going to F&M and to full council and will get debated further. So it's a recommendation at this point and so on. We're voting on whether to approve, you know, subject to including the items we just voted on, to approving the budget as it's drafted out here. The budget and the earmarks. Seconder, I propose.
Yeah.
Seconder. Sorry, in favour. I'm losing the plot. Thank you. None against, I take it. That's carried. Enough?
Yeah.
Thank you. Mary?
I think we should just note thanks to Rich for all his
Alright, so I don't think there's any other business we want to be thinking of.
There's the last item, publicity.
Publicity. Anything you want to quickly identify? We've got quite a lot of publicity going on at the moment. Yes, the tourism volunteer thing will get publicised and picking up on Tom's point that it'll be promoted through different channels. Gemma will be back next week and save us with that. Anything else?
Christmas trees.
Christmas trees. Oh, to publicise. Oh, sorry. I think I was going to say we decided that, haven't we? Yes, Christmas trees as to what we're doing. The Home Value Review seems.
That reminds me because you've created rolling grants for those, they're all rolling grants now. So basically, what you'll have to do, or I will have to do, is move that money from the Christmas provision into the rolling grants earmark reserve. So you'll have less money in the Christmas provision budget, and there'll be more in the rolling grants pot.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. We all nod. Would anyone like to challenge Rich on that?
That's what Wales
Did we agree that all the Christmas ones that came in were going to be rolling grants? And there was only about £500-600 left, so you're not. Am I right in thinking that? That's what we agreed.
Depends what else could have been done. Like we might have to approve them later through Ryan grants if any more do come in.
Yes, but all I'm saying is if you get 2 or 3 more in and that eats up the rest of the money that's left and you make them all rolling grants, there's going to be nothing in Christmas provision, is there?
I guess there's no opportunity for new people to come in.
Yeah.
If they're all.
Well, can I just point out in terms of the costs of this, a tree costs £156. And we've allowed at the moment up to £250.
Okay.
There is some
So there is, there is a
wiggle room there. for the future.
Yeah, and it's the rolling grant's only for the length of the term of this council, so, you know, there's a couple more years to go, but it's not forever.
Okay, good. And we'll enough publicity, enough everything. Thank you. Sorry, we've gone over a bit. Thanks for persevering with it. And
Thank you.